We have a painting to show and tell, and it's very meaningful right at this juncture in your journey.
So this is a painting by Morgan Weisling. I didn't know the story behind the painting when I saw it. It was actually on a little card. And I had this card, I'd bought it many years ago, but this kept coming up as a bookmark for me during the weeks before my surgery and after my surgery. And what the painting said to me, I saw myself as the little girl.
It could be you.
I saw myself as being vulnerable. I saw myself held up by prayer, not just locally, but actually people were praying around the world. But more importantly, I found myself in God's arms, in Christ's arms. In this particular painting, you can see that Jesus has the prayer shawl over his head, which means he's in direct communion with God. That is where his power comes from, is that incredible relationship that he has with the Father. And during my time before the surgery and during my time actually on the operating room table, that was the picture I carried with me.
No chemo, no radiation.
Yeah.
You came out of that surgery, and what did you do 2 weeks later?
So the first week I was a good patient. I did what I was told, but I was feeling so good that I said if God truly wanted me to be in Kenya, then he would either make the way possible or he would close the door. So a week after the surgery, I decided to go to work because I figured if I could work, I could go to Kenya. So I worked.
Wow, that's quite a connection.
I worked, and the Friday, the second week after my surgery, I got on a plane to Kenya.
I understand underneath that beautiful Mongolian jacket, there's a piece of jewelry that was an encouragement to you.
Right. I know a few nights before I was supposed to leave for Kenya, I was thinking, is this really the stupidest thing I've ever done? But God didn't close the door. The door remained open. And I did my office on Friday morning, and the last patient before I was supposed to leave for the airport gave me a gift. Now, usually if a physician gets a gift, it's chocolates or cookies, but on this occasion, the gift was different. On this occasion, the patient gave me a cross. And I must admit, I broke down into tears and I had to leave the room because the cross meant to me that God said that this was his will, that I was to go.
Now I know, because you've admitted to me before the program that if it was a patient you were talking to, you would tell them under no circumstances should you consider getting on a plane and going to Kenya to work. Here's a picture of the team that you traveled with, and you can see the sign there, Cancer Care Kenya. Again, a really diverse team of specialists. And you were fine.
I was, amazingly.
Fine enough to get these National Geographic shots. She wasn't going to bring these, and I said, Laurie, people need to know it's not just work when you go to these countries. It is an adventure. Take a look at some of the other things you saw. These are just beautiful. Go ahead.
Yeah, during the week we worked at the oncology conference, and I had the ability to do a site visit at Moira University Hospital, but during the weekends we did go on safari, and it was amazing because it was the time of year where the babies were a little bit grown up, so a number of the animals I got to see were moms and babies, as you can see in pictures.
How sweet. How sweet. What's your next trip? Do you have one planned?
So I have a vacation planned, but God is using Kenya in an interesting way. I've been invited to go back again in October, but I've also been invited to work at Kinjabi Hospital, which is one of the mission hospitals on the west end of Kenya. So it'll be interesting to see how God develops that story.
And we need to pray for you, because I think I'm correct in saying every time there's either a health challenge or there's spiritual battle, conflict around these trips. What have you learned about God through this amazing fall, last fall, 2011?
So the trips to low resource countries with their spiritual challenges actually allowed me to go through my illness knowing that God was in control, that bumps in the road always happen, I can either do what's safe for me, or I can believe that there's a bigger purpose in mind. And if I keep my eyes on God, even though it sounds crazy and it's against medical advice, God's story is absolutely amazing to see unfold.
Dr. Laurie, you spend 50% of your time doing research.
Right.
It's a word we don't like to hear, but it must be an exciting arena because there's so much happening in the whole cancer area. Are you optimistic in the fight against cancer?
So I think the most important thing everyone has to realize, especially in Canada, is that 1 in 3 women, or 1 in 3 people in their lifetime will get cancer. And where the benefits will happen is in the prevention arena, whether it's vaccines against hepatitis B or against HPV, which is the virus that leads to cervical cancer, whether it's prevention programs like the Pap test program with cervical cancer or the colon cancer check for colon cancer. These are where we're going to prevent cancer or find cancer when it's very early, where we can still cure it. Those are the areas where we need to all be vigilant in our own health care.
Well, you've heard it from the doctor, and I'm so glad that we have. God bless you, Dr. Laurie. I'll be on the inside track, and I hope folks will think of you and pray as you continue your interesting way to spend a vacation.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back. Don't go away.